All right, let's bring on our next guest here. We have him, Dr. Ahmad Doroudian. BetterLife Pharma. There he is. He's the CEO, Dr. Doroudian. How are we doing today?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks for putting this conference.
Thanks for joining this conference. We have the slides. Let's get them up on the screen. There we go. BetterLife Pharma. Yeah, let's go into presentation mode if we can.
Yeah, I'm going to.
There you go.
There we go.
BetterLife Pharma trading on the OTCQB. Tell us about it.
Thank you, guys. Really excited to introduce BetterLife Pharma to you guys. We're a life science company. We're working on a portfolio of novel non-hallucinogenic psychedelic drugs. We are listed on the OTC BETRF and on the CSE under the symbol BETR. This is our standard disclaimer, so we'll be talking about a lot of potential plans and forward-looking statements. So please do take time to read this at your convenience. Our investment highlight for our company is really on the mental health. We have a second-generation non-hallucinogenic psychedelic drugs. These are established compounds with novel IP-protected synthesis, formulation, and method of use. Patient-friendly answer to mental health. We are a biotech group, but we come from pharma side. So having patient-friendly means everything. If you have highly complicated and expensive treatments, then you don't reach the majority of people you want to reach, and becomes not as effective. So also we are strictly on non-scheduled. You don't use any scheduled drugs or precursors, so there's no restrictions in what we're doing. So that leads to faster development. Very experienced management in all aspects of drug development, big pharma expertise, and determination of a small biotech. We're a public company, lots of experience on the capital market management, and be good custodians of capital and deploy it properly. So we have two compelling and differentiated assets. The lead one is really 2-bromo-LSD. This is closest analog of the famous LSD, which we're developing for cluster headache and major depressive disorder and treatment-resistant depression. IND filing projected sometime early next year. And we have 2 manufacturing patents that eliminate the use of controlled substances. And we have method of use patent pending. The second compound, dihydrohonokyl TD010, indication is for benzodiazepine dependency. IND filings similar time, with the method of use pending IP patent that we're very excited about developing. The first compound, the first drug, non-hallucinogenic LSD. This is for potential treatment of major depressive disorders and other neuropsychiatric disorders. This molecule is very interesting. It was invented by Albert Hofmann, who is the same chemist who invented LSD, and is known to be non-hallucinogenic. There's human trials that have shown that it's not hallucinogenic, and it's shown to be effective against cluster headaches. And we have a proprietary manufacturing patent issued, and method of use patent pending. Basically, the difference is that we don't use any controlled substances. So to develop this material, this molecule that doesn't cause hallucination, we don't have to start with LSD and other regulated compounds. That makes things a lot easier and less costly to develop through various phases. So our final product is totally free of any controlled substances, and that, in this slide, if you look at this slide, what are the major issues with uses of hallucinogenics, LSD and other compounds like that. It's basically, two issues: that the administration has to be performed in a clinic. You have to go to a clinic to be monitored, and that adds time, cost, and these controlled substances. Number two is they make manufacturing, distribution, storage, shipping, all highly regulated. That adds cost and time, and for those of you who are familiar with the cannabis space, how many federal laws have changed regarding cannabis? I mean, that's still remaining. And for hallucinogenics, for psychedelics, this is a big issue. And until all the laws are changed, this number two point that I'm making here is quite restrictive on who can handle, develop, manufacture, and administer these drugs. And I think one of the other important issues that everyone in a psychedelic conference should know is, and probably have thought about, is not everyone is going to be open to go and be open to hallucination. Hallucination is something unknown, and a lot of people might be scared of that side effect, and it is a side effect. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to develop treatment for depression, for cluster headache, and other things in this space in mental health, and we want to remove this really nasty side effect, which is hallucination. So we think our compound does that. Lots of ample evidence. And in this table at the bottom of the slide, you see we have differentiated from psilocybin, LSD, and MDMA. We don't use any scheduled drugs. There are formal human studies available. We're not hallucinogenic. We don't use any list one precursors, unlike the other ones. We don't contravene any UN illicit drug laws. And I think from the pharma side, most importantly, is patient self-administered. The patient doesn't need to go in a clinic and be monitored and be supervised. This can be done on a patient on an outpatient basis, and the regulatory hurdle is quite low. So we have our manufacturing patents that eliminates the use of any regulated compound, and we have filed IP for method of use covering treatment of MDD and TRD, migraines, PTSD, and other mental health disorders. We're very excited about this drug. We have been working with these are some of the investigating collaborators that we've brought on board in the last year. Some of the most well-known names, Dr. Adam Halberstadt, he's a professor of psychiatry at UC San Diego, Argel Aguilar-Valles at Carleton University Neuroscience Department, John McCorvey at Medical Science of Wisconsin, and Nader Ghasemlou at University of Medicine, School of Medicine at Queen's University. So these groups combined with Eurofin, they are doing the preliminary work in generating the data. We have released some of the data previously, and coming out of these, and those studies are continuing. So we think there's a significant market opportunity in depression and other disorders. I think most of you have seen some of these numbers. That depression is a big issue. Just in the 2019 alone, was a $12 billion market, expected to grow to over $25 billion by 2030. Increase in fear, anxiety, and COVID hasn't helped. We're all been isolated for the last year and a half or two, and this whole thing is just opening for more treatments needed to people. So some of the developments to date, as I mentioned to you on the synthesis and composition, we've completed the synthesis for GMP type synthesis, and we have had optimal clinical candidates selected. We've scaled this up and send our drug to the various centers that I showed you. And we have, for the first time since, I guess, Albert Hofmann invented this molecule, we have shown that and with press releases, that our compound, 2-bromo-LSD, binds to similar receptors that LSD does. So, and we will be releasing additional data in the coming weeks, and we're very excited to show that while TD-0148A activates and reacts with the same receptors as LSD, it does not cause hallucination. This is a game changer in our opinion, because we believe that if you have a psychedelic type treatment, but without the nasty side effects of hallucination, you'll be able to treat a lot more patients, because you don't need to open clinics, you don't need to train staff and sign leases and things like that. So we think that this is one of those amazing compounds that once it gets through its development stage will make a difference. So we are currently generating preclinical IND enabling studies data, and some of that data is done. Additional data is coming in the next few weeks, and we're very excited in getting this through and submitting our IND to the FDA very early next year for these different indications. The second compound, TD-010, dihydrohonocule, for the potential treatment of anxiety and other disorders. This compound has been around for a long time. It's been used in traditional Chinese medicine. Several animal studies and safety exist, and the safety of this compound is known. It's derived from magnolia bark. Our studies have shown that it's not addictive, unlike benzodiazepines, and its anecdotal reports in drug rehab clinics claim that this molecule is highly effective in treating anxiety and effective in the treatment of benzodiazepine dependency. So our TD-010 is formulated in our patented formulation to overcome poor bioavailability. We have filed additional patent to cover the treatment side of things, anxiety and benzodiazepine dependency, insomnia, among others. This market is quite large. Global benzodiazepine market is expected to grow to somewhere around $4 billion in 2027. And we think that the rise in anxiety, rise in prevalence of anxiety, seizures, and other issues with the global benzodiazepine drug market has increased this. So current lifestyles and people having more stressful lives is also leads to additional mental disorders like depression, anxiety, panic, and manic conditions. These drugs right now obviously are legally manufactured, but they're very addictive. So that's where we come in. We think that TD-010 can make a difference in taking this dependency away and create a much more easier way to treat these conditions. Our plan again, it's very similar to TD-010. We're doing preclinical IND enabling studies and plan to file the IND early next year, and then proceed to phase 1/2 clinical trials. We have a very experienced management team. On the left, the operational group, and on the right are the advisory groups. And this team, both sides, we are supported by about 35 different entities of consultants and global players, from synthetic chemistry to to regulatory affairs and manufacturing and clinical trial design and so on. So we really are approaching this from strictly a big pharma mentality in terms of paying attention to the detail and the data we're generating before we go before we submit it to the FDA. I mean, that's where you make the biggest difference if you're backed by great science and data to put these compounds and file with the FDA for approval. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I'm happy to answer questions right now on any of these plans. And thanks for listening to my presentation.
Thanks for coming on today, Dr. Doroudian. Let me catch up on the chat. Also move my mic closer. That might help y'all to hear me better. I'll just ask you like a question that I like asking of executives, and especially after presentations. If you can just summarize everything you just said into one point, one key point. If we take away nothing else from the last 50 minutes, the one key point, the one highlight, that is what?
Is the fact that in the entire psychedelic space, we are developing a drug that patients can administer themselves in the privacy of their own home without the side effects of these well-known side effects of these compounds. We want it to be patient-friendly, and we want it to be cost-effective to create a real treatment. So that's really the summary of these presentations, that we have a psychedelic drug, but that doesn't cause hallucination, that you can use at home.
Yeah. And then, I guess like I'm so excited about this space, but there are so many unknowns though, it's just so like, it's hard. Cause I am like, and I've said this with other executives that are involved in psychedelics and I'm grateful that we're having this conversation, but it's just so many unknowns. We don't know about the regulatory aspect. We still don't really know, we have nothing really, approved. We do have some things approved, but the pipeline, the approval pipeline is slow. And it could take.
That's a great point. The regulatory, we don't need any laws to be changed for us to develop these. No, seriously, we don't need it, because if you know that the cannabis space, that the laws are going to be changed, the federal laws, the state laws. For this psychedelic space, yes, there's going to be laws that need to be changed for the classical psychedelics and so on. But for our purposes, TD-0188 is not a controlled substance. We've checked that. So no laws need to be changed for us to manufacture, ship, store, and treat people with this. And secondly, you said there are a lot of unknowns. Absolutely. That's why we are generating data from square one. We're doing brain receptor studies. We're doing, initial toxicology studies. We're doing head twitch studies. We're doing all the different things that you need to put in a complete package before the FDA to address all those unknowns. We don't want, we're sweating details right now. We don't want to leave anything behind, so that this becomes a patient-friendly drug that people can be confident it will help with their depression and anxiety. Now, some people will need to go to a clinic. Some people will need that, they're a little more extreme, their conditions. But from where we're coming, we can treat a lot more patients this way than if you need to go to a clinic and be monitored for 3 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is.
Let me just get this one from the chat here before we go here. This is from Easy Addict in the chat. Can we expect any announcements regarding partnerships before the IND in the first half of next year? The IND
Possible.
Sorry.
Possible. We are always on the lookout. Our executives have a lot of experience in M&A and partnerships with big pharma, and real answer to that is possible, depending on how the initial data looks like, and if we can get the attention of the right partner. Obviously, we don't want to partner too early and not be able to maximize the value of these assets. But in terms of us moving this forward, we have the capability, the know-how, and the firepower to do it. So we're very excited about that.
Dr. Ahmad Doroudian is the CEO of BetterLife Pharma. The URL was just up on the screen, ticker's up on the screen. There it is, betterlifepharma.com. Dr. Doroudian, a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for coming on today at the Benzinga Small Cap Conference.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.